Welcome to Box Recaps. Today I'm going to explain the movie The Protector, released in the year 2005. The movie starts and we see a young boy named Kam. We learn that Kam is the last one of a family line of guards who once watched over the king of Thailand's war elephants. We see the young Kam sitting on elephant back as he makes his way to school with his dad. His elephant's name is Por, and he loves her. When they get to school, he goes on to hug the elephant, and then makes his way to his school, as we see a teacher welcoming all the students in the school, and she says hi to Kam as well. In the next scene, we see Kam, his father, and Por at a pond, where Kam goes on to bathe the elephant with his own hands. Later, Por goes on to help them break some trees from the forest, as this is what Kam's dad does. We then go on to see many elephants in the forest, and all of them are bathing in a lake. After that, Kam's dad is having a meeting with the adults when Kam comes running to him and tells him about the peculiar things Por is doing with another elephant. When his dad looks at that, he tells Kam that they're having fun, so he should let them be. The next thing we see, Por is on her way to the forest, along with another elephant. The scene then changes and we see a small elephant coming out of the forest. It is a baby elephant, and we learn that it is Por's baby. In the next scene, it is shown that Kam has now grown up to be a fine young man, and he still spends a lot of time with his elephants as he loves them. They have named the calf Corn. We then see some people walking in the forest, and they have a rope and guns in their hands. Corn is eating leaves alone in the forest when these people approach him and try to catch him. But this is when his mother gets there, and seeing the big elephant approaching them, these men try to run out of there. One of them ends up shooting the big elephant. The big elephant is now lying on the ground, and these men can get out of there. During the Songkran festival, all the men from the village have come to the city, and they have gathered there with their elephants. This is when we see Por and Kam's dad. A security guard goes on to take a close look at Por, and then Por starts to trumpet loudly because she has seen the same men he saw earlier in the forest. This is when Kam's dad says that he's not going to give his elephant to these people because the elephant seems nervous already. Those men then attack Kam's dad and tackle him to the ground. One of them then just goes on to shoot him, and as all the other people are busy checking in on Kam's dad, those goons go on to steal the elephants and disappear. The scene then changes to a lavish house where the loud music is being played, and as the camera pans inside, we see a group of people partying. Kam gets there, he goes on to beat the crap out of everyone in the party, and then pins one of them to the ground. He beats him up very badly as he asks about his elephants. They at first refuse to tell him where his elephants are, but Kam keeps beating the shit out of him, and he finally reveals that the elephants are now in the hands of Johnny, a Vietnamese gangster who runs Tom Yum Goong Otab, a Thai restaurant in Sydney, Australia. Kam is willing to give anything to find his elephants, so he decides to go to Sydney. The next thing we see, he's coming out of the Sydney International Airport and taking a taxi. He goes on to give an address to the taxi driver, demanding to be driven there. After a while, we see his taxi being followed by a police car, and when it goes on for a while, the taxi driver realizes that he's being followed by this police vehicle. The driver then pulls over the car on the side, gets out, and runs away. It is then revealed that this taxi driver is actually a drug dealer, which is why the police are chasing him. He is, however, trapped by the police in an alley, and the driver panics. He then tells Kam to get out of his car as he points the gun at him. He then threatens to kill Kam, telling the police officers if they dare come close to him, he will shoot Kam's brain out. Kam looks around, and just as he gets the opportunity, he goes on to take the gun away from the drug dealer, and this is when a second policeman, Inspector Vincent, shoots the thief dead. The other officer then starts shooting at Kam, but he manages to dodge the bullets and tries to run away. The police officer follows him, and Kam ends up getting caught, and then arrests Kam, accusing him of being another thief. Kam is then put into a police car and driven to the police station. On the way, we see a police officer who is also Thai, and his name is Mark. He asks him what on earth is he doing in Sydney, and Kam tells him that he has come to find a friend in Sydney. Mark asks him what does his friend look like, and Kam says that he looks like an elephant. Mark now starts thinking and tells Kam that they will talk about it when they get to the police station. On the way, they make a stop at a hotel called Tom Yum Goong. A girl is standing there and she starts calling Mark. Mark smiles as he walks toward her. This is when we see Johnny coming out of the same hotel, and this is the man who has Kam's elephants, and this is the man he's looking for. Com, who is sitting in the back seat of the police car, sees Johnny. Com then starts shouting. He's not able to get outside because the car is locked, and he has been handcuffed. Mark comes back to the car and goes on to tell Com to calm down. Com, however, is restless, and the driver starts the car. When they hit the road, Com loses control. He goes on to try and choke the driver with his hands still cuffed. The driver loses control over the car, and they crash into a tree. Com then manages to get freed and runs away from the police car. He goes on to follow Johnny's car and sees that he has come to a public area to meet a girl. Com tries to get his hands on Johnny, but two of his men hold him back. And then Johnny goes on to land a strong kick on his face, sending him face first on the ground. Com is out cold when Johnny, along with his men, leaves. Com, however, still does not back down and gets up to fight the goons again. The girl whom Johnny came to see is a prostitute named Pla. She goes on to tell Com not to mess with these people, but he does not listen to her and again follows them. Johnny then leaves Com to fight his henchmen. He coerces a henchman to lead him to Johnny's hideout, interrupting a drug deal. Outraged, Johnny summons extreme sports enthusiasts to fight Com. After defeating the thugs, Com is exhausted and falls asleep in an alley near a small dumpster. Pla, the prostitute that Com met while confronting Johnny, brings him to her apartment. On the other hand, Mark and Rick are taken off the case and reassigned to provide security for the police commissioner's meeting with Mr. Sim. Mark, along with Rick, then get to a hotel where the commissioner is also shown. The big man makes his way inside the meeting room while Mark and his partner Rick wait outside. We then see that there is a full-on party going on in that room. There are girls wearing bikinis, and then we see the commissioner getting in a hot bath as a girl approaches him, stripping off. The girl approaching the commissioner is the same prostitute whom Com met earlier. The commissioner suddenly starts feeling down and goes on to tell the girl to bring him his medicine. The girl goes to the other room and starts looking for the man's medicine. When the girl is looking for the medicine, we see a man entering the room. His face is hidden behind a mask, and as he enters the main hall where everybody is having a party, he starts shooting all the people in there. The next thing we see, he has shot the commissioner and Mr. Sim dead. Mark hears the gunshot inside and right away kicks the door open. He checks in on the commissioner, but the man is already dead. He looks around and sees that the killer is still there. He takes him at gunpoint, asks him who sent him to do this. Just as the man is about to tell him the name of the man who sent him there, the killer himself is shot dead from behind, and it turns out it is one of Mark's superior officers named Vincent. This is the same man who tried to kill Com when he came to Sydney. The senior officer then goes on to pick up the gun of the killer, and he shocks everyone when he even kills Rick. Rick is Mark's partner and his good friend too. Mark is shocked to see this, and when he tries to retaliate, two men appear and go on to grab Mark. They then frame Mark for Rick's murder. Mark then gets an opportunity to run out of there, but all the men right away go on to chase him. This is when Pla, the prostitute who went to look for the medicines and has been hiding in the other room during all this, she comes out and picks up a fallen camera. She even manages to sneak out of there, and it is assumed that all that happened in that room is recorded on this camera. On the other hand, we see Mark, who has been on the run as Vincent and his men have been looking for him. Mark receives a call from a friend who tells him to meet him at a certain location. Mark goes there, only to find out that his friend has been captured by Johnny and his men. Mark is also captured. The scene then changes to Pla, who makes her way back to her apartment. She feels like something is wrong, and it also seems like someone has been trying to look for something in her apartment because her place is a total mess. As she looks around in shock, some police officers show up. They capture her and take her away. The girl cries for help, but no one comes to her rescue. The police officer drags her to the car and demands to know where the camera is. Just as they're about to take her away, Com shows up. He goes on to beat the crap out of all the police officers and takes Pla away with him. The girl then tells Com that she thinks Johnny is at the restaurant where she was, and Com makes his way to the restaurant right away. Com enters Tom Yum Gung Otab. He fights his way into the VIP area and reaches the dining hall at the top. As he gets there, he calls out Johnny loudly. He keeps calling his name. Some guards try to stop him, but they're no match for Com. The boy easily manages to best them all. In the protection of his men, Johnny taunts Com with Korn's bell. This enrages Com, who beats up his opponents. The last one to fight him is Johnny. This fight goes on for a while, but Com gets the upper hand and manages to put away Johnny with ease. He enters the storage area containing various exotic animals ready to be butchered and eaten. Com looks around the area and enters a room where he finds and frees Mark. In that area, he sees many girls who are on drugs, and they have no idea where they are and what is being done to them. Mark and Com are now walking in a hallway where they are confronted by a group of men. They manage to get away from them, and when they are hiding in a room, Com hears his baby elephant Corn's voice, and the next thing we see, Corn is standing behind him. Com is really happy to see him and gets emotional. He hugs his elephant. Com and Mark then go on to put Corn in a truck and gets out of the hotel. Inspector Vincent initiates a search for Com and Mark, who are now hiding in a Buddhist monastery. Soon after their departure, the monastery is set on fire by Vincent and his men. Believing that the temple and its inhabitants might be in danger, Mark and Com decide to return. After arriving, Com is confronted by 3 assassins, a fierce capoeirista, a sword-wielding wushu expert, and TK, a giant wrestler. Com defeats the first 2, but TK proves too strong for him. Com is about to be killed when the police arrive, and Mark comes to help him. He then manages to get him to flee the scene. Mark is later discovered by several policemen and sent to deal with Inspector Vincent, whom Pla has been revealed to be the murderer using the footage in that camera. Com arrives at a hall where Madame Rose, the leader of the Chinese gang, is having a press conference. Corn runs in, scaring off people while Com engages the gangsters. This fight goes on for a while, and in the meantime, Mark manages to find and apprehend Vincent, who then fatally shoots to settle the score. Finding himself with Corn in a huge room, Com is shown the skeleton of poor Yai, encrusted with jewels as a gift to Madame Rose. Her men then attack Com, who now fights more brutally than ever before, breaking many of the men's arms and legs. TK is called in, along with 3 others. Corn is thrown through a glass wall, and Com is knocked into the elephant ornament, causing 2 leg bones to fall off. Eventually, Com defeats the 4 wrestlers by using the sharp ends of the bones to slice their tendons. He stops Madame Rose before she can escape in a helicopter, and they both crash into the room below. We go on to see that his other elephant, Por, is there, and he has landed right on the elephant. At the end, Mark is forgiven by his boss, Inspector Lamond, and Com is finally reunited with Corn too. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on the notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.